The chamber was cold the way important rooms always are: too much air, too much light, and not enough warmth. Ji-yeon walked in alone. One diplomat.
No lawyers.
No science team.
No bodyguards.
Just her, in a dark suit, carrying a thin envelope. The Galactic Council's main chamber on Axis Station could hold 300 delegates from 31 species. Today it was full. Every seat taken. They had all come to watch. The Velthari delegation sat at the center curve, 6 of them, insectoid, their outer shells the color of old bronze. Their senior delegate, Velsarath, watched Ji-yeon walk to her seat the way a man watches a leaf fall. Curious. Unimpressed. In the observation gallery above, Nari watched everything. She was 34 years old and had been working council intelligence for 9 years. She had a notepad on her knee. She watched Velsarath's face when Ji-yeon sat down. She wrote 3 words, * they don't know. The session was called Re-evaluation of Humanity's Membership Standing. A polite name for what it actually was. 31 species had been members of the Galactic Council for an average of 2,000 years. Humanity had been a member for 200. 200 years of sitting at the side table. 200 years of filing complaints that went nowhere. 200 years of trade deals that always seemed to favor the other side. The pre-session vote had already happened. 29 species had agreed. Humanity would be stripped of its full membership and moved to observer status. No voting rights.
No veto.
No standing in treaty talks. Just a seat at the back of the room to watch the real members make real decisions. 2 species had voted against it. The vote in session today was a formality. Everyone knew it. The gavel came down. The session opened. 48 hours before the session, Secretary General Sungo had sent Ji-yeon a transmission from Seoul. He was 70 years old. White-haired. Tired in the specific way of a man who has been carrying a secret for 20 years and is finally close to putting it down. The transmission was 40 seconds long. He told her, "Smile. Let them vote. When Admiral Taiho sends the confirmation message, give them the envelope." He almost smiled at the end. Almost. Back in the chamber, the vote moved fast. Speaker after speaker gave the same speech in different languages. Humanity was young. Humanity was promising. Observer status was not a punishment. It was an opportunity to grow. In 50 years, perhaps 100, full membership could be reconsidered. Velsarath gave the longest speech. He was generous about it. Warm, even, in the way that something cold can look warm from a distance. He talked about humanity's potential. He talked about patience. He talked about the Council's long history of welcoming new species when they were ready. Ji-yeon listened to all of it. She nodded at the right times. The vote passed. 29-2. She thanked the Council. She said humanity respected the process. She said she looked forward to continued cooperation. Then she slid the envelope across the table. The room went quiet in the way rooms go quiet when something unexpected happens but nobody is sure yet what it means. The envelope was thin. Plain. Inside was a single card with a set of coordinates and a timestamp. 6 hours from now. The Secretary General of Earth respectfully requests that Council members observe a scheduled routine exercise of the Terran Defense Forces, Ji-yeon said. As a courtesy, given today's proceedings. Velsarath picked up the card. Looked at it. Set it down. Small whispers moved around the room. Several delegations exchanged looks. Then, one by one, they all landed on the same conclusion. This was a performance. A desperate move by a species that had just lost its seat and wanted to remind everyone it still existed. Some of them didn't even bother sending an observer ship to the coordinates. Why would they? Velsarath pocketed the card without looking at it again. Nari, watching from the gallery, put her pen down. She wrote 2 more words, *too late. 6 light hours away, the *DMSV Obsidian Meridian * sat in empty space. There was nothing around it. No planets. No stations. No traffic. Just the dark and the distant scatter of stars and the cold quiet that exists between things. Admiral Taiho stood at the forward viewport. He was 61 years old. His face had the kind of stillness that comes not from peace but from years of deciding that visible emotion costs too much. He was not looking at the stars. He was looking at the space between them. The dark parts. The invisible parts. The parts that no instrument in the Galactic Council's arsenal had ever learned to read properly. His space. Behind him, First Officer Wu Jin stood at the comm station. Wu Jin was 32. The youngest first officer in the history of the Terran Defense Forces. Taiho had chosen him personally, and Taiho did not make choices without reasons. All 44 ships confirm position, Sir. Wu Jin said. Taiho did not answer right away. Outside the viewport, nothing moved. Nothing was visible. That was the point. They voted. He said. Yes, sir. 29-2. Taiho nodded. It was a slow nod. The kind a man gives when something he knew was coming still lands with weight anyway. 200 years of it. 200 years of sitting at the side table, accepting the smaller portion, filing the ignored complaint. He looked at the dark space outside the viewport for one more moment. He thought of Myri. 30 years in sealed facilities, building the thing that everyone said could not be built. He thought of Sungo, drinking bad coffee at his desk at 4 in the morning for 2 decades, holding the plan together with patience and sheer will. He thought of Jiyon, sitting in that chamber, listening to Velsaratha's warm speech about humanity's potential, and not letting one thing show on her face. He thought of a lot of people. Then he turned from the viewport. Then let's stop being polite, he said. Wu Jin entered the command and the 44 ships that weren't there began to move. On Axis Station, Nari closed her notepad and watched the Velthari delegation file out of the chamber. They were relaxed. Satisfied. Completely certain they understood what kind of day this was. She did not correct them. She just watched them go. The demonstration coordinates pointed to a dead system. 1 dim star, no inhabited planets, no council infrastructure. Just space. The kind of space nobody had any reason to look at. 11 of the 31 council species had sent observer ships. The others had not bothered. The Velthari had sent their science vessel, the Velketh *, because Velsarath believed in covering his options even when he was certain. He was certain now. Whatever humanity was about to show them, it would not change what had already been decided. The observer ships arrived at the coordinates and found nothing. Empty space. Dead star.
No debris. No signals.
The Velthari science officer ran a full passive scan and returned a clean result. He reported back, nothing is here. Then nothing changed. That is the wrong way to say it. Something changed. But their instruments did not register it the right way. They registered the absence of what had been there before, like a gap appearing in a line of text. 44 points of sensor shadow materialized in formation across the dead system. No drive signatures. No heat.
No electromagnetic output.
No light reflection. The ships were there. But to every instrument on every observer vessel, they barely were. The Velthari science officer stared at his readout for a long time. Then he sent one word to Axis Station.
*impossible*.
Jiyon received the word in the council chamber, patched in on a secure channel to Wu Jin aboard the Obsidian Meridian Star. Wu Jin walked her through what the council was seeing in the calm, flat voice of someone briefed on extraordinary things often enough that his voice no longer rises for them. The ships were built in what their lead physicist Myri called the dark seam, a structural layer running through the fabric of space itself, woven thick with dark matter. Normal ships travel through space. Underlayer ships travel through the layer underneath it. They step through the dark matter webbed the way a hand passes through fog. No FTL engine.
No warp bubble. No observable transit.
They were simply somewhere, and then somewhere else. The whole design was wrong by every known engineering standard. Angles that should not distribute stress. Surface panels that absorbed sensor pings and redirected them away. The Velthari science vessel spent 40 seconds trying to get a clean return off the nearest underlayer hull. The signal kept sliding away. Not jamming. Not blocking. Redirecting. The way water moves around a stone without the stone doing anything at all. Their software processed the formation as a debris field. 44 stationary gravitational anomalies. The alarm on the Velthari vessel read, *debris. No threat assessment. In a laboratory on Earth that smelled of cold metal and recycled air, Myri watched the sensor feed from the observer ships on a monitor the size of a wall. She was 47 years old. She had started the work that led to this when she was 28. The lab had been her entire world for most of her adult life, The kind of world that does not have weekends or natural light, just the problem in front of you and the next calculation and the one after that. She watched the Velthari alarm ping * debris field * for 8 seconds before the system tried to correct itself. Then it went back to * debris field * because it did not have a better category. She laughed. Once. Short and high. * debris * she said to the empty room. Then quieter. * short. * She had not slept more than 4 hours in 3 days. There was a cup of cold tea on the desk that she kept forgetting to drink. Her hands were steady. On the open council channel, Gion's voice was professional. Almost warm. She told them, 44 operational Underlayer-class warships, Group 7 of the Terran Defense Forces Dark Matter Fleet. Each vessel carries a dark matter displacement weapon. Her teams called it the Peel. In 4 minutes, Admiral Taiho would fire a single demonstration round at Moon 7741 Veth, a lifeless rock in the Dead System, cleared for military exercise use under a treaty all 31 council members had signed 190 years ago. She mentioned that last part specifically. The treaty they had all signed. In the observation gallery, Nari watched the Velthari senior delegates' left mandible begin to tremble. She noticed and looked away, giving it the privacy a person gives to something that should not be witnessed. 3 observer ship captains requested permission to move to a safer distance. Gion told them that was, of course, their right. Taiho stood at the firing station. The room was quiet. The 43 other ships held position, silent, dark, patient. He looked at the targeting confirmation on the screen. Moon 7741 Veth. Catalog rock. Nobody's moon. Worth nothing to anyone. He looked at Wu Jin. Wu Jin gave a single nod. Taiho had run this moment in his mind many times over many years. He had imagined he would feel something large, triumph, or a great weight, something that had a name. He felt something, but it was not large. It was simple. The feeling a person gets when something prepared for a long time is finally, quietly done. He gave the order in 4 words. * peel the moon. *. The shot was invisible.
No beam. No projectile.
No energy bloom on any instrument. The * obsidian meridian * did not shake. There was no sound. The firing registered on their own instruments as a small gravitational shift, 14 milliseconds long, and then nothing. Across the Dead System, every observer ship held its breath. Moon 7741 Veth was there. And then it was not.
No explosión. No debris cloud.
No flash of light. The moon simply ceased to occupy the space it had occupied for 4 billion years. The orbital path it had carved through that system continued curving through nothing. The gravitational map of the system was permanently wrong now. The way a room feels different when furniture is removed. You feel the absence before you understand it. On the Velthari science vessel, every alarm went off at once. The senior analyst silenced them all and stood in the quiet that followed. He had no category for what his instruments had just measured. He had no word for it. He stood there for 11 seconds before he transmitted to Velsaruth. When Velsaruth read the report, he read it twice. Then he sat very still. On Earth, Myri opened her project journal to the last page. She had started this journal at 28. It had 41 volumes behind it, lined up on a shelf that ran the length of the lab wall. She wrote one line, * confirmed. Peel conditions produce irreversible matter seam separation under standard field parameters. *. She closed it. She looked at it sitting on the desk. The 41 volumes on the shelf. 30 years of a life lived mostly in this room, for this result, toward this line written in a journal nobody outside a very small number of people would ever read. She picked up her cold tea and finally, at last, drank it. The moon was gone. Not destroyed. Not scattered across the system in a cloud of rock and gas the way a normal weapon would leave a moon. Just gone. The space where it had been was empty in a way that felt wrong, like a missing tooth, or a shadow with nothing left to cast it. 17 council species sent emergency transmissions to Axis Station within the first 20 minutes. The word that appeared most often, across all 17 messages, in 17 different languages, translated to the same thing in every case. What? In the council chamber, Gion set her notes down and folded her hands. The chamber had filled back up. Species that had left after the membership vote had returned. Their seats were full again. Some of them had brought extra staff. The room felt smaller than it had that morning. Ji-yeon waited for the noise to settle. When it did, she spoke calmly. She told them what the weapon did, not how it worked, because that information was not available to the council and would not be, but what it did. The dark matter displacement system separated matter from its underlying dark matter support structure. The separation was permanent. The affected mass did not move. It did not scatter. It simply ceased to interact with normal space. A delegate from the Tharasol Collective raised a limb and asked, "Where does it go?" Ji-yeon said that was an excellent scientific question, and humanities research teams would be glad to publish their findings in a joint paper once the new council framework was established. That was when Nari, watching from the gallery, allowed herself a very small smile. The Velthari faction met privately. 6 species. Their fastest secure channel. Velsaratha's voice was controlled, but Nari's intercept team caught 42 micropauses in his speech patterns, the kind that happen when a mind is running faster than the mouth can follow. His argument: this was one shot. The weapon takes days to reload. The 44 ships are a display, not a fleet. The physics contradict 4,000 years of established dark matter theory. This is a bluff built on one trick. The others listened. Some of them were not sure. The problem with Velsaratha's argument was that it required him to be right about things he had already been completely wrong about. 2 of the 6 species quietly opened back-channel lines to Ji-yeon's team while the private session was still running. Nari intercepted those 2. She sent Ji-yeon a 3-word message on their secure channel. They're going to try. In the open council session, the document was placed in front of each delegation. 7 pages. Ji-yeon had written it herself, which meant it was in plain language with no padding. It called for a restructured council framework. Equal voting weight regardless of species age or technology level. Renegotiated trade terms to remove coercive provisions. Immediate dissolution of observer status as a membership category. The document called these things requests. That word, request, did a very specific kind of work. It acknowledged the form of the process while making completely clear that the substance of it was not open for discussion. Every delegation that read carefully enough understood that. The species that had sent emergency transmissions within the first 20 minutes read it first. Several of them were nodding before they reached the second page. The Velthari delegation did not pick theirs up. On Axis Station's lower observation deck, Nari sat in the small monitoring room she had been assigned at the start of the week.
No windows.
The air smelled recycled. There was an old coffee cup on the desk she kept meaning to throw away. She pulled up the intercepted Velthari faction comms and read through them slowly. Not for intelligence. She had already processed the intelligence. She was reading for something else. The texture of it. The specific shape of how a power that has been the largest thing in the room for centuries begins to understand that the room has changed. It sounded, in its own way, like grief. She was not unsympathetic. She was simply certain about what came next. She opened a new document. A new file. Already building the map of where the pressure points would shift, which alliances were real and which were adjustments of convenience, which species were deciding based on fear and which were deciding based on something more durable. Nari was always already working on what came next. In the chamber, Velsarath looked at Ji-yeon. He had been a senior diplomat for 90 years. 47 council treaties. He had watched species rise and fall and overreach and collapse. He had a record. He trusted his read of things. He had read humanity as a species that was trying hard, young, emotional, reaching above its actual level. Not a threat. Never a threat. He had been so sure. He looked at Ji-yeon now and found himself doing something he had not done in a very long time. He looked at her the way you look at a stranger. Like he did not know her at all and was only now beginning to understand that this had always been true, that the person he had been reading for 12 years was not the person sitting across from him. You were never afraid of us, he said. It did not come out as an accusation. It came out heavier than that. The grief of a man who has been telling himself a story for a long time and has just understood the story was wrong from the start. Ji-yeon did not perform sympathy. She did not perform contempt either. She just answered him. No, she said. We were never afraid of you. Back in her laboratory on Earth, Myri was not watching the political session. She had the session feed running on the smaller monitor in the corner. She knew what Ji-yeon was doing. She trusted what Jion was doing. She did not need to watch the moment land in real time. She was watching the sensor data. The dead system was still transmitting automated returns, gravitational mapping, mass distribution readings, orbital tracking data. All of it recalibrating around the absence of the moon. Her instruments were processing what that absence meant for the physics of the surrounding space. The dark matter web underneath that system had shifted slightly when the moon's matter-seam support was removed. The shift was small, but it was measurable. It pointed at something. She opened a new file and started writing notes. The words came fast, the kind of fast that happens when a new problem opens up right after an old one closes, when the mind, which has been aimed at one thing for a long time, swings toward the next thing and finds it already waiting. This was who she was. This had always been who she was. The application was one. The next question was already here. She wrote without stopping. She forgot, again, to finish her tea. The Velthari battle group came out of FTL 72 hours after the demonstration. 300 ships. The largest single-species fleet in the Galactic Council. Every vessel was first-line Velthari military, fitted with the most advanced conventional weapons and shielding that 4,000 years of galactic dominance had produced. By any measurement anyone had ever used, it was an overwhelming force. They arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system and broadcast their position on the Open Council channel. Humanity had developed unauthorized weapons technology in violation of Council treaty. Enforcement protocols permitted corrective military action. This was corrective military action. They began moving toward Earth before anyone had time to respond. 4 of Earth's orbital defense platforms were hit in the first exchange. 4. Out of the 9 platforms Earth had deployed in the inner system, a network the Velthari had dismissed in their intelligence assessments as standard grade, 3rd tier, not a serious deterrent. They were right about the platforms. Those assessments were accurate. They were the last accurate assessments the Velthari battle group made. The forward line reached Earth's outer orbital shell in 11 seconds of engagement time. In those 11 seconds, something happened that the Velthari commanders had no tactical category for. Ships appeared inside the formation. Not ahead of it. Not on the flanks. Asterisk inside it. Asterisk between the second and third lines. In the gaps between individual vessels, the space a fleet leaves between its own ships because that space is supposed to be safe. Your own fleet is there. Nothing else can reach it. Every defensive strategy ever written is built on that assumption. Underlayer ships do not travel to a position. They step to one. The dark seam runs everywhere. There is no outside and inside when the layer you are moving through exists beneath all of space. They arrived where the Velthari least expected anything to arrive. Taiho ran the engagement from the Obsidian Meridian *, which had transited from the demonstration system to Earth's solar system in a time so short that Wujin did not bother logging it as transit time at all. The order Taiho gave was, disable, preserve, minimize. His ships moved through the Velthari formation like water through a net, past every sensor array, every intercept system, every defensive perimeter built on the assumption that a threat comes from outside. Drive systems first. Then weapons arrays. Then communications. Each target taken out with the smallest possible energy use, the smallest possible collateral effect. The Velthari ships went dark one by one. Drifting. Intact. 300 crews alive and unharmed, sitting in powerless vessels in Earth's solar system, watching the engagement end around them with nothing they could do about it. 19 minutes. Wu Jin counted the final tally quietly at Taiho's shoulder. When the last Velthari ship went dark, Taiho turned from the tactical screen. How many did we lose? He said. None, sir. Taiho nodded. Not like a man celebrating. Like a surgeon who finishes a clean operation and sets the instruments down without drama. Because drama was never part of the job. The job was the job. It was done. That was enough. Good, he said. The Council emergency session convened at Axis Station within 4 hours of the engagement ending. The first question every delegation had was the same. They wanted to know the actual size of humanity's dark matter fleet. The demonstration had shown 44 ships. The engagement at Earth had involved ships from a group with a different designation. Groups. Plural. Jion told them the 44-ship demonstration fleet was Group 7. It had been assembled specifically for the Council demonstration. Its designation indicated 6 other groups before it. She said, 11 other groups in total. She said, Group 7 was not the largest. Total fleet size, she said, was not information the Council would receive. Humanity's military capacity was humanity's information, the same as any sovereign species. The chamber went very quiet. Sungo's address came through on the session feed, pre-recorded, transmitted from Seoul. He was wearing a plain suit. He looked like somebody's grandfather. He spoke for 4 minutes about humanity's commitment to the new Council framework and its desire for stability and equal partnership. He mentioned, in the same flat voice, that underlayer ship production was ongoing and commissioning schedules were proceeding normally. He said it the way a man reads a logistics report. He said it like it was not the most significant sentence spoken in the Council chamber in 200 years. Nari watched 26 delegations receive that sentence and process it in real time. She watched the calculations happen behind their eyes. Not panic, not quite. Something more precise. Recalibration. The adjustment a mind makes when the world turns out to be larger than it had been told. 8 species formally withdrew from the Velthari coalition within 18 hours. In the disabled Velthari flagship, Velsarath drafted the negotiation request alone. His staff offered to help. He told them no. This one he would write himself. He sat at his desk and stared at a blank document for a long time before he started. He thought about 90 years of diplomatic work. The treaties, the assessments, the careful and experienced reads he had made on every species he had ever dealt with. He had never been badly wrong about a species. Not in 90 years. He thought about a thin envelope slid across a table. A card with coordinates and a timestamp. The way Ji-yeon had said asterisk as a courtesy asterisk in a voice that was perfectly smooth. He thought about all the sessions he had sat through and how many times Ji-yeon had been in that chamber and how many times he had looked at her and seen exactly what he expected to see. He wrote the request. Brief. Formal. Asking for direct negotiation on the release of Velthara vessels and crew, and for a framework to address the current situation. He read it back once. Then he transmitted it. On Earth, Myri watched the news feed from the council session on the small monitor in the corner. She had a glass of rice wine on the desk. She did not usually drink. She had bought this bottle a year ago, for this specific day, put it in the back of the cabinet, and not touched it since. She poured 1 glass. She thought about being 28, running the first interaction theorem on a university computer that barely had the processing load to handle it. The calculation had taken 9 hours. She had sat there the entire time, not eating, not sleeping, waiting. When the result came back, she had looked at it for a long time before she picked up a blank notebook and wrote 1 sentence on the first page. Asterisk, this is possible. Asterisk. From that sentence to this glass of rice wine, 30 years. She drank. The Velthari negotiation request arrived on Taiho's console. He read it once. Said it on the panel. Asterisk, send it to Ji-yeon, asterisk, he said. Wu Jin looked at him. Asterisk, you're not going to respond yourself, sir. Asterisk. Asterisk, I'm a soldier, asterisk, Taiho said. Asterisk, the war's over. It's hers now. Asterisk. He turned back to the viewport. Earth was visible from this distance, small, blue-white, ordinary to look at, the way things that matter most tend to look ordinary from the outside. He watched it for a while. He felt, for the first time in a long time, no particular urgency at all. 3 months. That was how long it took to write the new charter. 40 pages. Every line argued over, every word checked by 43 legal teams from 31 species working in parallel, all of them looking for the version that was fair and also real, not the kind of fair that the powerful write when they get to define the terms, but the other kind. Equal voting weight for all species, regardless of age or technology level. Equal access to trade routes and resource corridors. A formal statement that existing treaties had contained coercive provisions and were therefore void. A ban on the observer status category. The preamble named it directly, called it a mechanism built for delay rather than welcome, and said it had no place in the new framework. 40 pages. 3 months to write. 200 years to earn. Ji-yeon stood at the center podium of the council chamber. Not the side table. The center. She had stood at the side table at every session for 12 years. She had the specific muscle memory of that chair, the angle of the speaker's platform from the side of the room, the way the lighting hit wrong when you were sitting where they put the less important people. The center podium felt different. The chamber was full. All 31 delegations, full attendance, no empty seats. The chamber had never had full attendance at any vote in the 200 years humanity had been a member. Velsaruth was there. Voluntary. No one had required it. He had come anyway. He sat in the Velthari delegation seats and he did not look comfortable, but he was present. Jion noticed. She did not react to it. The vote opened. Species after species confirmed. The larger members went first, some of them still uncomfortable, none of them undecided. Then the smaller species, the ones who had been sitting at side tables far longer than humanity had, the ones for whom observer status had been a very polished cage. They confirmed fastest. 30-0. One vote remaining. The chamber waited. Velsaruth's delegateship registered on the board. Yes. 31-0. Nobody cheered. That was the thing Jion noticed most. Nobody made noise. It was not the kind of vote that gets a cheer. It was the kind of vote you sit with for a moment, let the weight of it settle, understand what it means before you let yourself feel it. She thanked the council. She said, "This is a beginning." She said it simply, without performance, because it was true and that was enough. After the session ended, Jion found Myri in a corridor outside the main chamber. Myri was wearing the wrong shoes for the station's floor panels. The surface had a slight magnetic resistance that Axis Station was designed for, and Myri's footwear was not, which meant she kept sliding slightly on the turns. She had already caught herself against a wall twice on the way from the transit bay. Jion watched this and said nothing about it. Myri was looking at the chamber door. She had come up from Earth for the vote, first time off-planet in 14 years. She did not know what to do with her hands up here. She looked like a person who belonged in a room with instruments and equations, and not in a corridor after a historic vote in front of 31 species. Asterisk, was it enough? Asterisk, Myri asked. Not. Asterisk, did we win? Asterisk, not. Asterisk, are we safe now? Asterisk, enough. The word that held 30 years of choices inside it. Jion thought about the question carefully. She thought about the 4 orbital platforms that had taken hits. About the platform crews. About the years Myri had spent in sealed rooms that smelled like recycled air. About Sungo, who had been carrying the weight of this plan like a stone in his chest since before Jion had joined the diplomatic service. About 200 years of grievances filed in careful, polite language and quietly ignored. She thought about whether you could call anything enough when the cost is what this cost. Asterisk, ask me in 100 years, asterisk, she said. Myri almost smiled. The kind of almost that has real warmth behind it. Taiho was not at Axis Station. He was aboard the Asterisk Obsidian Meridian Asterisk, in transit back to the Darkseam construction yards, the yards that did not appear on any council map, that had existed for 30 years in the unseen layer, and were now, for the first time, operating openly under the military sovereignty provisions of the new charter. Wu Jin brought him the debrief summary. Full fleet status. 0 losses across the entire engagement period. All groups reporting in. All systems nominal. Taiho filed it without reading the numbers. He was looking at the full star charts on the navigation console, the real ones, not the Clip Council standard maps that had cut humanity's deep space sensor access for 200 years. The full maps were bigger. More crowded. The galaxy had more in it than the Council's official version had shown. More species. More space. More dark. Asterisk, they think it's over, asterisk, Taiho said. Wu Jin stood beside him, looking at the charts. Asterisk, you don't. Asterisk. Asterisk, they thought they knew us for 200 years, asterisk, Taiho said. Asterisk, and they were completely wrong about everything. Asterisk, he folded the chart slowly. Asterisk, a species that makes that kind of mistake once will find a way to make a version of it again. Different shape. Different timeline. Asterisk. He set the chart down on the console. Asterisk, will be ready. Asterisk. Seoul. Early morning. Sungo sat on the steps outside the government building in civilian clothes. An old jacket, the comfortable one. He was holding a cup of coffee from the machine in the lobby, the cheap kind, the kind that tasted like it had been designed to keep a person awake rather than to be enjoyed. He had been coming to this step, getting this specific coffee, sitting here like this, since before he was Secretary General. Since he was a junior analyst at 26, who had read a proposal marked highly classified on a screen in a small office and understood, in the particular way only a few people ever understand things, what it could become if someone held the line long enough. The city was waking up around him. Traffic sounds. Distant voices. A dog somewhere on the block below. The ordinary noise of 8 million people going about a morning that was, to them, a normal Saturday. They did not know what had passed 3 nights ago in the council chamber. The public announcement was being drafted. In 2 days, they would know. For now, the city was just waking up. The sky was the color that happens before dawn picks a direction. Blue-gray, undecided, the color of something that has not yet become what it is going to be. Sungo drank his bad coffee. He thought about Jion. About Taiho, out there somewhere in the dark seam, already looking at the next map. About Myri in her lab, probably already pulling new data from the absence of a moon, already building toward the next impossible thing. He thought about all the mornings he had sat on these steps carrying something heavy. The years when the plan felt thin. The years when one wrong political move could have collapsed everything. The years of smiling in the right rooms and filing the right documents and giving nothing away. He thought, we were never afraid of you. He thought that was true. He also thought it was not the whole truth. There had been nights, in the middle of the 3rd bad year, the 6th bad year, where something close to fear had lived in him. Not fear of the Velthari. Not fear of the council. Fear of failing the people who had given their lives to the plan. He had not failed them. He set the empty cup down on the step beside him and looked at the sky. It was shifting now, slowly, from undecided grey toward something warmer. The first light finding the edges of things. He had nowhere to be for the next 2 hours. No call waiting. No decision pending. No weight to carry that was not already in motion. He sat with that. He let the morning do what mornings do.